situation now as FT Win is up 3-2 here in terms of manpower. Basil gonna help to get the pick there and take down Exit as they try to pop the clamp. That's another going down. And
something that I'm sure a lot of people think about is, what is the best way to get better at the game? And to give an answer right off the bat, there is no best way, but that's a pretty boring video. What I think is more important is trying to understand the strengths and weaknesses of each form of practice to figure out what's best for you at the time you're trying to practice. Now, I'm not going to cover things like the story mode. I'm assuming the basics are at least somewhat understood at this point and that you have ranked battle, otherwise just play until you get those. And I'm also not going to discuss any aim training or warming up. Those are fine. They're extras to start your practice though, not the main thing you're going to be doing most of the time, I'd assume. Anyway, if this video helps you, consider subscribing. And let's start with the basics. Solo ranked. Solo ranked is playing by yourself at your highest rank, practicing seriously. If you're not X rank, this means specifically playing series, not Anarchy Open. By yourself with minimal distractions. If you have X rank, it means you're queuing into X rank. Let's talk about the strengths and weaknesses. First off, it's a queue system by the game. You can basically always do it without having to have anyone else online. It also forces you to carry. A lot of people will complain about their teammates in solo queue, but it's kind of the point of solo queue that you have to do good enough to carry games. Playing equivalent to your teammates or playing good enough means you belong in the rank you are in. If you want to rank up and get better, which in this case is the goal all of the time, then you're playing to carry. No matter what weapon you play or what role you're put in, you are forced to figure out how to do that in solo, and the results will simply show by if you're winning or losing more of your games. Speaking of that, it's good because it keeps the focus on you. If you're trying to improve as an individual player or work on skills that are focused on just you, this is the thing for that. However, solo is obviously far from perfect. It's worth mentioning that solo is possibly the most tilting or upsetting experience that you can play. It's definitely common to have solo matches that go very awry, matchmaking that can go bad, or frequent disconnections. It can be an unpleasant experience even if it's a helpful one. It also puts you at the mercy of the rotation system. Practicing a variety of maps and modes is very important, but it can also lead to the experience being less enjoyable. There's only so much Wahoo World Clan Blitz a person can take. And finally, while a team understanding is important to understand how to carry, you don't really get a lot of practice experimenting with control over those dynamics. You're slotted with whatever the game gets you, and you gotta work with it. So if you need better help understanding the game on a team setting, this doesn't do that much. For 99% of the player base, this is gonna be your best method of practice, and even higher level players will pretty consistently throw themselves into ranked for this reason. Basically what I'm telling you is, you're probably never gonna not do solo queue. It'll always be something you should be practicing at least a little bit. Next up is SendouQ. This is probably the closest thing we have to solo queue. This is an easy to access system on SendouQ. You can queue into a system, select your weapons, your preference for voice chat, and request to pair with people, being able to see their ranks and weapons and ability to voice chat. When you've got your teammates, you can also choose based off the rank or mode preference of your opponents. This gives you a lot of customization, and then you play a best of 7 set. This still has a pretty good emphasis on solo carrying and your ability to win. You are still attached with a rank. You are still, hopefully, choosing to match with people of similar ranks to you. That's pretty helpful. It's also a very customizable experience. If you don't want to play with specific weapons, if you want to play with specific people, if you want to play specific modes or maps, you get to have preferences for all of it. It's also a pretty good way to make connections. See who you enjoy playing with or against. If you're trying to look for more people to practice with, that's a great place to start. And it's also good to get more practice in a team setting. In fact, I think it's really good for those who have no experience playing in a coordinated setting who want to get a taste of what that actually feels like. This is a non-committal way to experience that however you want. That said, there's some downsides. Finding players can be a much more long and inconsistent process depending on the ranks, weapon, or time of day that you're on. And the matches you get are a lot more varied. There's a chance that you might have to play someone a lot higher or lower ranked than you in order to get matches. It's also in the middle of team practice and solo play. The strengths you're building are much less focused than either of those. You're very much in an awkward middle ground spot when it comes to improvement. SendouQ is great for those getting into comp or trying to experiment to find others to practice with, but oftentimes there could be other practice modes that are better once you get more experience. Let's talk about the new one on the block, and that's 8s. For those who don't know what 8s are, basically, you find a lobby of 8 people. You'll have 2 people in the cooler slot, slot, 2 people in the anchor or support slot depending on your coolers. If your tacticooler players are backline players, you'll probably have normal supports. If your tacticooler players are short range options, then you'll probably pair with normal backlines that don't have a cooler. And then you'll have 4 aggressive weapons. The way this works is you make a PB, and you separate the cooler players, and you separate the support or anchor players. Then you randomize the teams, and have it swap every single time. So you're always keeping the roles distinct, but besides that, you always change matches every time a best of 3 is completed. So once a team wins 2 times, it's reset and you roll again. As you might expect, the constantly changing teams and more set team compositions help keep games more even, while you still have a format that allows you to practice with and against other players, being able to see what you work well with and still being able to have a change up in the compositions that you are running. Also, because you have a set win rate throughout the session, it's very easy to see your individual impact based on the amount of sets you're winning and losing. However, again, there's always going to be some downsides. This one requires a lot of setup, probably more than anything else. Usually, it's going to be some server with people you know or people around your level that you're able to ping and queue with. But unlike something like SendouQ, there's no place where you can just queue in, at least right now. It has to be something you're curated with, and that usually requires a lot of connections. The other downside is the role system. Comps can only be so experimental when they have to abide by this set role system. So if you're someone who wants to get really experimental or likes playing compositions that aren't too standard, you're not going to get that here. 8s for me is great for very established players and groups, which is why it's especially so helpful at top level where most of the people already know those they're going to play against and the circle is smaller. It can have consistent feedback on your individual focus while still allowing the environment to be similar to that of a team. However, they can be really hard to get into. Second to last here is Scrims. Scrims are basically having a group, or more often than not a team, and looking for a time to get coordinated practice against another team. One team will host, and you'll practice on map and modes that you guys decide ahead of time at a time you decide ahead of time. This allows for control over what is played. If you want to practice combinations for an upcoming tournament, you get to do it. You also get experience, more often than not, versus fully set teams and groups. This can give you experience with those with their unique game plans or compositions. It can also be easily scheduled in advance. 8s can too, but this is a bit more common. If teams show up properly and on time, please do this, guys. It can be really helpful for those with busy schedules. Being able to have a set time where you know everyone's going to be on and are able to schedule that ahead of time. If you're doing scrims, you probably have a set group or even a team, in which obviously, yeah, you're going to get a big advantage. It's nice to be able to play in a coordinated environment. As you might imagine though, now that we've swung all the way to the most coordinated team-based environment, the downsides are going to be on an individual focus. Mainly, that there's a lack of it. This is a group setting. The focus are on improvements, compositions, and details focused on the group, not for you to work on your own individual mistakes. It can get in the way of practice. Not saying you won't ever be able to talk about individual mistakes, but a lot of it will be based around your coordination and role with the group, not how to individually carry games. If you don't have a set team or group, then, well, obviously pickups are going to generally be a worse experience, the one that can still be helpful. Finally, overdoing scrims. If you get used to only playing with the team, playing with the same weapons and the same players, you will get dependent on that environment. It will lower your ability to succeed when adaptations are necessary, or if you're with new people. It's important to make sure that you don't get too dependent on your teammates and are also able to have your own individual strengths. Obviously, scrims are the best for teams or groups that need to figure out and test strategies or team compositions, but it's also great if you want experience against specific teams, and it can lead to longer connections for specific practice. There's one more thing to talk about though, and that's VOD review. Let's do the negatives first this time. VOD reviewing yourself is a skill that isn't intuitive. Unless you're being coached, you have to learn how to analyze your own games, or whoever you're watching if you're trying to study a higher level player VOD or someone who plays your weapon, for instance. If the issue is a lack of experience or you're very new, VOD review probably isn't going to be too helpful for you, but it's still a good skill to develop. VOD review has a whole lot of unique positives though. For the main thing, it allows you to slow down the game, revisit plays, look at other perspectives, and in a fast-paced environment, there is a lot you'll miss in the moment that you'll be able to get a better handle of later. If you're VOD reviewing with a group or someone else there with you, it can lead to open discussion and cross-feedback between input from different people if you're reviewing together. It's a great place to allow others to try and look at your perspective and figure out something that you might have missed. It's also best for developing deeper game knowledge and analysis analysis skills, which is helpful for recognizing patterns and improving faster. The better of the understanding of the game you have, the more you can pick up on what you need to do. Unless you're very new, VOD reviewing should be a solid part of your improvement process. If you don't know how to do so, then learn it. Ask yourself, why did things not work out? Or if they did work out, what made them work out? Try to recognize patterns. If something didn't work, understand why, or come up with new ideas to try. VODing, especially at the start, will be a lot of trial and error, but it is very helpful. The main thing to keep in mind is don't make excuses for yourself. Always look at the situation with the factor of what differently could I have done in this situation. And if you keep the mindset positive and focus on trying to figure things out and lining it up with the data of what actually happens in the match, it can be very helpful. Now, obviously, there's more to improvement than just these methods. These are pretty much just the main ones. Sometimes you might be getting coached, or maybe you'll need to play a tournament to work on your nerves and see how you function in a high pressure situation. Who knows, really? I think the overall lesson here should be twofold. One, vary your practice methods. It's good to test yourself in multiple areas and not to get too comfortable in just one of them. Building multiple skill sets can help you if you're serious about improvement. And two, take it seriously. Do these practice methods with the explicit and focused mindset on improving. Don't make excuses, don't distract yourself. Getting better at the game is a skill that requires focus, time, and dedication. So if you're doing this, make sure that's what your focus is going to be. Anyway, I hope this was helpful, and good luck out there, everyone. I'll see you next time.